Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new series where I will be playing Out of the Park Baseball 26 on the channel, and I will be rebuilding the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, you may have a few questions. Number one, what is Out of the Park Baseball? Out of the Park Baseball is a baseball sort of managerial simulation video game. If you're watching this and you're one of my friends, you've probably heard me talk about playing it a lot. I think on Out of the Park 24, well, it's just like on all the games combined in the series, and I've been playing them since like 2020, 2021. I probably have close to 600 or 700 hours on all of them. Now, that's not to say that I'm an expert of any sort, or that I know any of my shit for that matter, but I really enjoy the game. Like I said, it's a baseball managerial and general managing simulator. Here, it's very in depth, as you can see by all of the text that is on your screen. If you are overwhelmed, that is normal. Don't worry about it. It's very in depth and gives a good representation of what actually being a general manager or a manager, or both in this instance, in Major League Baseball is like. Your next question may be, why did I choose the Pittsburgh Pirates? Well, number one, it will be very much a challenge. I could have just picked my favorite team, the New York Yankees, and be able to spend $300 million a year and get whoever I want, trade for whoever I want. But that wouldn't be nearly as fun or as challenging. A big reason I picked the Pittsburgh Pirates is because of this bastard right here, Bob Nutting. And you see he has a couple of personality traits here. Well, this one, Penny Pincher in red, makes it so that our budget, which you see here that I'm highlighting, is 29th out of 30 teams in the league. Bob Nutting does not like to spend money on his baseball team, and you need to spend money to win games. So it's going to be very difficult for us to succeed in this. Another reason why I have selected the Pittsburgh Pirates is because they have a couple of, well, first of all, they have a really strong prospect pool, which I will go into later. So a lot of guys that hopefully we will be seeing in the coming seasons here in the game. And they also have this gentleman right here, Paul Skenes, who is hopefully going to be the cornerstone of this rebuild. And in fact, the first thing I'm going to do when I get into the gameplay of this is try to extend Paul Skenes on a long-term contract. So looking at the player profile here, you have the headshot, the name, all of the biographical information. These are the awards that this player has won. Paul Skenes was Rookie of the Year last year and made the All-Star team. These down here are the stats. You can see his Major League statistics: 11 wins to 3 losses, a 1.96 ERA, and 133 innings pitched, with 170 strikeouts, and a 4.4 wins above replacement. These are all very, very good stats, especially for somebody who only pitched in 23 games. We see the overall and potential rankings here, the 4 out of 5 stars, and the ratings here are based on the real-life 20 to 80 scale that is used in Major League Baseball. Now, I have a setting on where it will show ratings that are rated above an 80, just to show a scale, because not all 80 grades are alike. Paul Skenes has one of the very best fastballs in the league, so they give him an 85 grade out of 80. Paul Skenes, a superstar player, really the lone bright spot right now on the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we definitely want to be locking him up long term. Well, locking him up is not a great way to put that, but we definitely want to be extending him on a big contract. I guess let's get into the team as it stands here. I'm recording this on March 19th, and we are starting in the game on that very day, March 19th, 2025. And as it stands, the Pittsburgh Pirates are probably going to be quite bad in the 2025 season. We'll just run through the lineup really quickly. We got Nick Gonzalez, who has really good gap power, a solid contact, not great defense at shortstop, only a 35 grade with a potential of 45. These personality traits are quite important, especially for development and for cohesion in your locker room down here. Leader is good to have. Loyalty is good to have, but the best for development, which you will see when we get closer to the draft in June, is I'm going to be looking for players with high work ethic and high intelligence, because those players, for whatever reason, just seem to develop the best out of anybody. Andrew McCutchen is here in probably his last ride. He's 38 years old. His hitting ratings are still pretty good. His defense is all right, and he has captain personality, which is very, very good. But I just don't really see him, like, he's not a part of my long-term plans here with the franchise. If you're not a baseball fan, you see these awards up here. This one, he was the most valuable player when he was playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2013. He is a 5-time All-Star, a 4-time Silver Slugger Award, which is basically the best hitter at your position. And he was a Gold Glove Award winner, which basically is the best defender at your position. So Andrew McCutchen, very much, as I can go into his batting stats here, you can see that he played for Pittsburgh for a long time at the beginning of his career. And you can see with these WAR numbers here, the red numbers mean he led the league in a certain category. You can see with the wins above replacement numbers, these are very, very good numbers. Anything over a 5 is like a great, probably a top 15 to 20 player in the league at the least. Obviously, in 2013, he wins the MVP award. In 2014, he's similarly great. Eventually, Pittsburgh just can't really pay him, and he goes a couple other stops, and he's not as effective. But now he's back here in Pittsburgh on sort of a last leg retirement tour. And yeah, so this is the only year on Andrew McCutchen's contract. As you can see, he will be a free agent after this year, and I don't think I'm going to bring him back. But Andrew McCutchen, a Pirates legend. Bryan Reynolds is a player that we will probably see a lot, especially because he is on a very long-term contract. We have him through at least the 2030 season, his age 35 season. We can pick up the team option in 2031, which basically, if we want to pay him $20 million, we can do that. Or if we don't want to do that, we can decline the option and he will just become a free agent and leave the team. But for the next 6 years at least, Bryan Reynolds will be a Pittsburgh Pirate. Overall, he's a quite good player. He has very solid hitting attributes here. As you can see, all these numbers are in the green. He's got good speed. He's got solid defense in a corner outfield spot. He's a switch hitter. He's made 2 All-Star teams with the Pittsburgh Pirates, most recently last year. I mean, like, I wish we were paying him less, but also he is very, very good. So, and the only reason I wish we were paying him less is because we have such little money to start with that when you have guys on big contracts, it's just harder to build a team around them, naturally. But on the other side of that coin, you need good players to play. Like, you need good players on your team to be a good team, obviously. So yes, Bryan Reynolds, a corner outfielder, a left fielder, who will be with us for a while. Another player that will be with us for a while is O'Neal Cruz, one of the more exciting players in Major League Baseball right now. And he is quite good. Let's see. Only his second full season, I'll say. His 4th season, but his second full season. He was a 3.7 wins above replacement player with a 114 OPS plus. So to explain that for my non-baseball fans, OPS is a stat, on base percentage, how often you get on base, plus slugging percentage, which is basically bases per at bat. The higher your slug, the more of a power hitter you are. And so you add those together and you get OPS. And for OPS plus, you take the OPS of a certain player, divide it by the league average OPS, and multiply that number by 100. So an OPS plus of 114 here means that O'Neal Cruz was 14% better than the league average hitter. This is quite good, honestly. 114 OPS plus is nothing to sneeze at. It's a very, very good season for a player that I think is very, very good. You can also see his defensive ratings here, 55 out of 80 in center field, which is where we will be playing him. He also has 65 outfield range and 75 outfield arm with 70 speed. Outfield range is, I think, the most important stat for a defender, or this applies to outfield and infield. I think range is the most important rating for a defender. It's just getting to balls and say there's a ball hit in the gap, it could be a catch and an out instead of an extra base hit for a hitter, for example. And range helps with guys just being able to get to fly balls or ground balls in the case of an infielder. Henry Davis is the catcher on this team. I believe he was the number one. It doesn't say here, but he was the number one overall draft pick by the Pirates back in 2021. And it's kind of been an up and down road for Henry Davis to get to the major leagues. Obviously, you can see last year he split time between the AAA level and the major league level, and was not very good when he played at the major leagues. But I'm really just banking on this development here from Henry Davis. His catching ratings are not particularly great. They're not particularly bad. Like with this, I would like it to be at like 60, but if it's at 50, if it's at 50 and the player is a good hitter, I can stomach it. I'm really hoping that he gets to this 4-star potential and we're not just left with a sort of mediocre, not really developing catcher. Another player we will be seeing around for a long time, for better or for worse, is Ke'Bryan Hayes, who is a defensive wizard at third base. 70 rating on the defense, 70 infield range, 70 error, 70 arm. A great defensive third baseman. The problem is the bat that he has to swing. You can see down here, in 96 games last season, he had a 62 OPS plus, which, if you remember, means that he's 38% worse than the average major leaguer. Also, he had a wins above replacement rating of -0.4, which means, he was just flat out bad last year. And he is on a long-term contract. Thankfully, we're not paying him as much as we're paying Brian Reynolds, but it's still $7 to $8 million a year, depending on what year it is, less than we would have otherwise to build the team. So I would really like for Ke'Bryan Hayes to sort of get back to, this is a small sample, but even back to his 2023 performance where he's slightly above a league average hitter. And if he can just be that great defensive third baseman and like a league average hitter, I think we'll have a really, really good player on our hands here who will like actually be useful for the rebuild here. This is a player that I didn't think I would be very interested in, but Jack Suwinski, he was very good. He was very solid in 2023, had a hit 26 home runs, stole 13 bases, had a 114 OPS plus, and a 2.8 wins above replacement, but then last year was kind of a stinky disaster. 64 OPS plus, only had a 182 batting average and a negative wins above replacement. But I really like the 60 grade power, the 60 grade stealing, the 65 grade outfield range. If we could get him to develop in either of these corner outfield spots, potentially. And if in the development lab, which we will see at the end of this season, that I will be using for the first time as an out-of-the-park baseball player, hopefully in the development lab, we can improve his contact and get him to strike out less. And then I think we'll have a really good player here. He's quite young as well, age of 26. So I think we could have a really good player here in Jack Suwinski if he develops right. Moving to the pitching side of things, there's not only Paul Skenes, who we talked about at the top of this episode, but we also have a gentleman by the name of Jared Jones, who is only 23 years old, and his control isn't the greatest, which you'll see in a relatively high walks per 9 rate. This is how many batters he walks every 9 innings. But his movement on his pitches is quite good. This is home runs allowed, and this is opposing BABIP, or batting average on balls in play. This is pretty much just hitter's ability to hit the pitches that he's throwing. The ratings are fine there. The stuff rating, which stuff is pretty much just the combination of movement and velocity. At least that's how it's always been explained to me. Stuff is kind of a vague, anomalous term that people like to throw around. But the stuff rating is all right. I wish the control was a little better. We could probably work on that in the development lab. But his individual pitches grade out really well, like a current 75, potential 80 fastball, a 65-70 slider, and a 55-65 curveball with an okay changeup to boot. I think that Jared Jones could be a very good player for a very long time for us. Really, the only things that I'm concerned about, and this is like the one concern that I have for Paul Skenes as well, is his stamina is pretty low at 45. I believe Skenes is also 45. It might be 50. But that means that, this guy may not get as deep into games as you would like. Obviously, you want your good pitchers pitching for as long as they can. Jones does not quite have the stamina to maybe get into the 6th, 7th, or 8th innings as often as you would like. And then the other thing that concerns me is his ground ball fly ball tendency. A fly ball pitcher simply just gives up more home runs than a ground ball pitcher would. Not that the park that we play in Pittsburgh is that much of a pitcher's park as compared to a hitter's park. Like Colorado and Cincinnati are very much hitter's parks, and then you have like San Francisco and Seattle that are very much pitcher's parks. Pittsburgh doesn't really fall into any of those major categories. They're not ridiculously favoring hitters as opposed to pitchers, but you would still rather have a ground ball pitcher than a fly ball pitcher, because obviously home runs are the most devastating hit that you can give up. I love the velocity though, 97 to 99 miles an hour. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jared Jones for this rebuild. Another pitcher here that we will have for a long time on the team is Mitch Keller, who was an all-star 2 seasons ago, where he had a 3.5 wins above replacement. We have him on the biggest contract that anybody has on the entire team. This was signed before last year. And, he's going to be getting high teens to $20 million a year on this contract. And I think he's a very solid pitcher. The stamina at a 60 grade is quite nice. I don't love the fly ball pitcher like I just talked about. The stuff isn't great. The movement and control are fine, and all of his pitches are fine. Also, for a starting pitcher, I like them to have as many pitches as possible. So a 5-pitch mix here for Mitch Keller with the fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, and cutter. I quite like to see, as opposed to, I think Jared Jones only had 4 or whatever. 4 is fine. 5 and up is great. 3, I'm not really loving you as a starting pitcher. I'd rather have you in the bullpen. And then 2, there's no chance you're starting. You're going to be a bullpen player. The last player that I will talk about for the major league side of things is David Bednar, our closer. I'm just going to be honest, he may be traded at the trade deadline in July. But he's a 2-time All-Star for Pittsburgh. He was terrific in 2022 and 2023. Not so much in 2024. You see these pitching stats here, a 2.61 ERA and a 2.00 ERA in 22 and 23, and a 5.77 ERA last year. So for an ERA, like anything under 3, I would say is great. Anything 3 to 3.5 is still really good. 3.5 to 4 for a starting pitcher is acceptable. For a reliever, it's more, I don't know really how I feel about this. Anything over 4 is like, again, on that wary side where it's like, I don't know necessarily how I feel about you on my team. And then anything 5 and up, you're just a bad pitcher. I believe that David Bednar can go maybe not all the way back to 2022, 2023 form, but I think he can be good enough to where maybe we can trade him at the deadline to a team who needs a relief pitcher and will give us prospects in return to make our team better in the future. But the ratings on David Bednar, he's got a really solid 3-pitch mix here with a really good fastball, a solid curveball, and a solid splitter. He's got solid stuff, movement, it's all 50s. 50s are fine. But yeah, David Bednar, a team as bad as us doesn't really need to be paying $6 million for a relief pitcher. We will likely be trading David Bednar at the deadline, but generally in his career, a good Pirate. With that, I get into another big reason that I chose the Pittsburgh Pirates is because I believe that their farm system, their prospect pool is very strong. The game ranks them 12th out of 30. You can see here, these are the prospects in the bottom left here. This is their rank as far as all major league players are concerned. And this is just projecting how good people think that these players are going to be when they reach their potential. So the number one player in the system, in the game, is Connor Griffin, who was the first round draft pick last year by the Pittsburgh Pirates. He is the number 17 overall prospect, and you see the stats here. He has a potential rating of 4 stars, an overall rating of 1 star, so obviously he's not ready for major league action at this point. You see this bar over on the left here is what his current ratings are. On the right, you have his potential here. So he's currently rated as a 35 on a 20 to 80 scale for his contact ability. We think that it could get to a 55, which would be quite good. I really like the BABIP potential, batting average on balls in play, pretty much just getting the bat on the ball and seeing what happens, making contact. For the power, I really like the power as well with a 70 potential. The speed is already there. I really like a 60. And the defense could really be solid in the future. I would say actually it is solid right now, but it could be great in the future. 75 grade left fielder potential, 55 center, 70 right, but already 60 in the corner outfield spots, 65 outfield range, 70 outfield arm. If I go to ratings here, we can see an infield range of 55. I know the Pirates drafted him to be a shortstop. Right now, he's a center fielder. I kind of like him in center, honestly, but, if he needs to make the move to shortstop or to third base or to either of the corner outfield spots, I think Connor Griffin is someone who can be very versatile. Also, really good personality class here, high in leader, high in work ethic, which I said earlier is one of the main ones that I look for. I look for high work ethic and high intelligence, and I suppose high leader as well. For my prospects, I really, really like Connor Griffin as a prospect. He's the number 17 ranked prospect in the game, and I think he's going to be really good for us one day. We move on to Termarr Johnson, who, for whatever reason, so in this game with the draft classes, there's a couple years built out of real drafts, of real draft classes, of real college and high school players. And when Termarr Johnson was in that range, he was like one of the best prospects ever, and he would always turn into a great major leaguer. I'm hoping that a similar thing can happen here. His batting eye is a 65 grade, potential 80. This basically means that he's going to swing at less bad pitches, swing at more good pitches, and take more walks, which is very valuable. Just getting on base by any means and not making an out is very, very valuable. The contact potential, the power potential, I think is okay. The defense potential, I think is okay. The speed is pretty solid at 50. Base running is good at 55. I think Termarr Johnson could be a positive contributor at the major league level. I would like some of these ratings to improve, though, to be honest with you. But I still think that Termarr Johnson can be a solid contributor for us eventually. The next best prospect in the system, number 64 overall in the country, is Axial Plaz, who I'm actually not very familiar with. I suppose he signed as an international free agent back in 2022. At least that's what the game is telling me. And this is really what I would like to see out of my defensive ratings for a catcher. 50, 55, just the rating itself, and then blocking and framing and arm all at 60. That's what I really like to see out of a catching prospect, and also 70 potential power. We could be looking at a guy, and in real life last year he hit 15 home runs in 76 games. We could be looking at a 30 home run guy who's providing great defense behind the plate. That is a great player, I think, and I'm excited to see how Axial Plaz develops in the league. Next, we have, in my opinion, the best player in the Pirates' real-life system, right-handed starting pitcher Bubba Chandler, who is the 77th ranked overall prospect in the game. Chandler had something recently in the media for the spring games where he was joking with Paul Skenes, and he was like, I'm coming for your spot at the top of the rotation, or it was something along that line. I don't think he'll necessarily be as good as Skenes, but I think Bubba Chandler really has the potential to be a great pitcher in the majors. He has a great fastball, a great slider, and a great curveball with a solid changeup, pretty similar to Jared Jones, who we talked about earlier. In fact, all these ratings are really similar to Jared Jones. In fact, I think they might have just copy and pasted Jared Jones ratings and called them Bubba Chandler. But like, still, I like Jared Jones and I like Bubba Chandler. I think they can both be really, really good. I think we can have a great rotation here in the future. Next, we have Nick York, the number 81 rated prospect in the game. This guy's what we call a utility player, meaning he's pretty much a jack of all trades, a master of none when it comes to defending. He's a solid, he can be a solid defender at second, third, left, and right. We can pretty much put him anywhere, and he's going to be okay. Really, really great speed here, 70 grade, and really solid contact and gap power potential. With an all right eye and all right power, I think we could really have something here with York. Last year in 41 games at the AAA level, since being traded from Boston, I believe, York had a 938 OPS. Don't look at this OPS plus number, it's broken, but a 938 OPS, which is really, really good. So I think we could really have something here with York. This is the last prospect that I'll talk about for now, just so two things really. Number one, so you can really see how raw a high school or an 18, 19-year-old prospect can be. Here with Wyatt Sanford, who I believe is like the number 130 something overall player, but they stopped showing it here on the player profile once it's outside of the top 100. Regardless, you see here that his current ratings: 35 contact, 35 BABIP, 40 avoid strikeouts, 30 gap power, 25 power, and 35 I. Remember, this is on a 20 to 80 scale, so these are all quite bad numbers, but you can see what we think Wyatt Sanford could be, which is a 60 grade hitter with 75 grade avoid strikeouts, like really not striking out much at all, with a 60 grade eye, so he's walking a ton, and 70 grade defense at second base, and 55 grade defense at shortstop, with great infield range, great ability to turn the double play. He already has incredible speed. I'm hoping for big things from Wyatt Sanford. And then the other thing is, I guess they renamed intelligence to baseball IQ. That's on me. So yeah, for prospects, I look for high work ethic, high baseball IQ, which Wyatt Sanford has in droves. If we develop him right, which is easier said than done, if we develop him right, Wyatt Sanford could be a great player. Next up is the staff. The staff is a lot more important than you would probably think it to be. Each of these people here have ratings that are important for player development, like teach pitching. This guy's average, so I might actually, in fact, I am going to fire him and hire somebody else, but I'll worry about that in a second. But the other thing, not only the ratings that's important for your staff, is their personality. So when I loaded up the game, a lot of these people had the personable personality. There's 5 different personalities in the game: personable, easygoing, normal, controlling, and temperamental. And you pretty much just want to match up all of your staff so that they get along with each other. You're putting similar kind of people in the same building so that they work well together, and so they're not like always at each other's throats. Because if your staff cohesion is bad, it will negatively impact how your staff performs their jobs. It will negatively impact how they're, coaching the players, teaching them how to play, stuff like that. It'll negatively impact how your team plays. So you want to make sure that your staff gets along with each other so that pretty much just bad shit won't happen. I'm going to fire Oscar Marin here because his ratings are quite bad. And so I'm going to go into this here, looking for a pitching coach. Change the preferred occupation to pitching coach so we see some players here. I'm going to change this instead of value to coach ratings so we can see what each coach is good at. For a pitching coach, I'm looking for someone who is good at teaching pitching, obviously. And at the major league level, I'm more interested in looking for someone who has a higher rating in influences mechanics. If I was looking for a minor league level pitching coach, I would look for somebody who has great handle development rating. So the ratings for coaches go basically from red to green and then blue. Like red is bad, blue is great. Goes from poor to fair to okay to average to good to I thought there was a great, maybe just goes good straight to excellent, excellent to outstanding, outstanding to legendary. And that goes for all of these stats here, from teach hitting all the way to handle aging. Reputation, actually, no, reputation is the same as well. From reputation to handle aging, but reputation adds inexperienced. Regardless, that's not very important. For a major league pitching coach, I'm looking for somebody who can teach pitching well and can influence mechanics well. But I will filter, customize, and I will add these filters here, seeing if I can find anybody who is good at their job and perfectly matches what I am looking for personality-wise. Having the personality be personable and the positive works well with personality trait also being personable. So we will look. They are active, okay. So I will sort by teach pitching here. We have Anderson Polanco and Dave Righetti, who are outstanding. And then I will also look at mechanics, which it looks like there's nobody really better than good here, which is a bit frustrating. I could look here to Clayton Mortensen, here, who has excellent teach pitching. Personality personable, works well with personable. I only have one normal personality on my staff, so that won't be that big of a deal. Excellent handling development, good handling mechanics, helps power pitchers, which is one of the couple of different types of archetypes, which is what Paul Skenes is, and I think Jared Jones and Bubba Chandler might have also been power pitchers. I may be incorrect. But we're looking here, handles development, excellent, influence mechanics, good, teach pitching, excellent. I will offer Clayton Mortensen a contract to be the next pitching coach of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So now looking here, assuming that all of these people accept the contracts, which I honestly expect them to, we will see the works well with here for the personable guys skyrocketing. The one normal guy has two guys that won't like him, but that's fine. I just clicked on him. Drew Toussaint will be the scouting director. He is basically the person in charge of making sure that the ratings that we were seeing on all of those players that I just showed off are accurate. So you need high ratings here, or else you're gone. Excellent, outstanding, love to see it. I would rather a legendary, but there was nobody better available. Kevin Seitzer is going to be the first one of the base coaches. I forget which one. Pretty much what I'm looking for here is somebody who, first of all, the in-game running is at least okay, because the base coaches influence the base running decisions of the players. And secondarily, I need somebody who can teach defense great, because that is the job of the base coaches, and the bench coach is to teach defense. So we have excellent ratings here for Kevin Seitzer. And we have the other one, Jeff Fry, with outstanding and legendary ratings in those. Outstanding in-game running, legendary at teaching catching and outfield defense and running. You can only have two of these guys on a single job. So you'll see here, if I put Don Kelly, our bench coach, on 3 of these jobs, he becomes overworked, and he will not be he will not perform any of his jobs well. So that's why we need a good bench coach, which we kind of have. I don't really feel like firing him. A good first base coach and a good third base coach. The GM here, Theo Epstein, who, as far as I'm aware, has no relation to Jeffrey. The GM, the assistant GM, isn't super important. Pretty much you just want to find a guy that fits your ideals. Like I would rather have prospects on my team than veterans, because prospects are cheaper and their range of outcomes, their ceilings are much higher. I would rather have a team with power than speed. I think on-base percentage is more important than batting average. I like to trade a lot. I'm pretty aggressive in my trades. I really like having a high budget for draft and international free agency and development. So pretty much just get a guy that fits your ideals and fits the personality of your room, which Theo Epstein does perfectly. The other biggest part of this is your team trainer. and this guy is kind of iconic in the out of the park baseball community. It is Tricky Rick Jameson. And the most important part here, obviously, he's great in all of these, but the very, very most important one, he has a legendary rating in preventing arm injuries, which is so important for your pitchers because arm injuries end pitching careers, like to put it bluntly. And to have a guy who can hopefully, you know, stop that from starting in the first place, you need a really great trainer like Tricky Ricky, like Rick Jameson. I think that's everything that I have to go over before I can start the series. Oh, I also have a couple players injured here. Johan Oviedo, a solid starting pitcher, 27 years old. Let's see, 3 years of service time, so he'll be around for another 2 to 3 years. And then Spencer Horwitz, who the Pirates traded for in real life. Once he is back and healthy, as you can see, he is injured with a sprained wrist. He will be back in about a month. He will be the second baseman, probably, when he comes back and healthy. Solid contact, great eye. He's a fine player. He'll be a solid contributor for us for the season. But I believe that's all that I really have to talk about before we get into the regular season in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. And I will see you in the next episode of the Pittsburgh Pirates rebuild, where we actually get into games and I actually get into managing the roster. So long.